But Sam Yarnell, let's start it out with what we saw in Monday Night Football. And just as perplexing a game as I could remember watching in terms of the way it was coached, both teams' offenses struggling the way they did. And these are supposed to be two contenders. And I come away from this game trying to figure out, yeah, we know what the Eagles are as defending Super Bowl champions. But another week passes with me trying to figure out, are the Packers for real or not? Because defensively, it feels like they certainly are a contender. But offensively, Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and this offense cannot get on the same page. And I know losing Tucker Kraft, huge. Dobbs being hurt in this game, suffered some sort of chest injury. That obviously played a role late in the game, but it didn't matter for the first 2.5 quarters when he basically wasn't contributing all that much and this offense wasn't moving the football. I'm trying to wrap my head around it and come away with some sort of angle on what the Packers are, what the Packers aren't. I'm struggling to do it. We'll get to the Nick Sirianni stuff and the way he coached this game coming up. But first, a thought on the Packers right now, Sam.
Yeah, Jason, I mean, a game that came down to who wanted to lose it less, right? At the end, that's really what this game came down to when we're talking about, no 200-yard passer, didn't have a 75-yard rusher in the game, didn't have a 70-yard receiver in the game. It was just ugly. It was a real ugly Monday night product last night from Lambeau Field. And there is this large contingent of people wanting to call for Matt LaFleur's job. We just did this yesterday on the show. It's hard to call for a job of a coach who's 6-3 and won the division every year he's been in it except for one. I think that there is a ton of overreaction towards this Green Bay. They didn't have a good game, and obviously you wanted them to have a good game coming off of that Panthers loss, but we see this with good teams in the NFL. They'll go through a 2-week stretch where they seemingly just don't have it. They just forget how to play football for a couple of weeks. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying it happens. It does. In this league, in this year, it is something that seems quite inevitable. From the Eagles side, more of the same, right? It's just, this is status quo for them. They're going to keep winning games, by the skin of their teeth, because why win them 30-10 when you could win them 10-7? It just, I don't know. The Eagles seem to be more confusing to me, but certainly I think there's a ton of overreaction everywhere about the Packers today.
Well, it's the ebb and flow of the NFL season, right? I mean, we're ready to crown them after the first 2 weeks of the season. Then you...
Before week one, they traded for Micah Parsons, and everyone's like, okay, so they're winning the Super Bowl. What?
And it's the ebb and flow of this season, which has become longer and longer as the NFL continues to extend, the number of games. And now you look at you look at this season and, in terms of quarters, and, we're through the first 2 quarters of the season. We're in the middle of the third sort of quadrant of the season. I just can't get a feel for, if it all goes right for the Packers, if everything breaks right for this team, are they a Super Bowl team? Some people would argue that when they are playing their very best football, they're a Super Bowl contender. Maybe not a Super Bowl winner, but a contender to come out of the NFC. But we've seen that happen on so few occasions now after the first couple of weeks of the season, Sam, that I'm left to wonder, are they more the team that we've seen for 65% of the season, or are they more the team that we've seen to 30 to 35% of the season? And I am tending more to lean towards they're the team we saw last night. Not that terrible offensively. The Eagles obviously had some say in that, but that they're more that team than they are the team we saw in the first couple of weeks of the season when teams are still kind of figuring out who they are. On the Eagles, can I just say this? Nick Sirianni, big huevos last night, calling that 4th down play with 30-something seconds left that gives the Packers a chance to get down the field and Brandon McManus a shot at a 64-yard field goal. That's the sort of call you can make as a head coach when you won a Super Bowl the year before. It's not the kind of call you can make if you're coaching for your job. But when you've won a Super Bowl, the way Nick Sirianni has, you can say, That's the way I'm doing it. What are you going to do about it? Fire me? Because you know they're not going to. That was the sort of call he made in that spot last night, which argued against all conventional wisdom. It went against all conventional wisdom, going for it there on fourth down and giving Jordan Love and that Packers offense life that they otherwise wouldn't have had, Sam.
Yeah, it was a bad call. I don't think, I mean, even though they won the game, I think anyone will tell you it was a bad call. Not the right decision. Analytics tell you not to do that. Football mind tells you not to do that. Nothing tells you that you should do that. And quite frankly, you luck boxed your way into Jordan Love choking away another clutch moment. That was the story of that moment for me, Jason. Nick Sirianni gift wrapped that game going to at least overtime and handed it to Jordan Love on a silver platter, and he took it and punted it. It was absolutely awful. And I know everyone's been talking about that 4th and 1 play call on the drive that led into this Eagles drive that we're talking about, where the Eagles defense was calling out the literal play that the Packers were about to run. How, if you are Jordan Love, do you not audible out of it? There's 30 plus seconds left on the play clock, a minute 40 plus left on the game clock. All you have to do is get that first down. You didn't do it because you couldn't make the right call at the line. It was an expose last night of Jordan Love being a not ready, not talented enough NFL quarterback, not in terms of the raw talents, the arm strength, the accuracy, that kind of thing, but in terms of the decision making, the being able to manage an offense. He does not have it. This guy has no chance to beat the allegations against him.
I don't know if I'm ready to go that far yet. I don't know if the die has been completely cast. Maybe for you it has. I did see a couple of decisions in that game last night that were certainly suspect, and we continue to see those decisions from him in big moments. I do wonder if the coach-quarterback relationship here has staled to the point where maybe a change is needed in that regard, too. We'll get to Brian Daboll's firing next. Welcome back. Coming up in 10 minutes. Some weekend leftovers from the NFC. Sam Yarnell, of course. What always happens right after we finish putting this show to bed, you can guarantee there's going to be news that breaks. And that's why we have SportsWrap Shorts. You like what I did there? SportsWrap Shorts. If you have not done so yet, make sure to follow and subscribe to the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. SportsWrap Shorts covers everything that might break after we put the show together. So, for example, Brian Daboll gets fired by the New York Giants yesterday. Boom! You go to the YouTube channel, SportsWrap Shorts, right there, talking about the Brian Daboll firing. You could also get SportsWrap Shorts on TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page, and on Instagram, SportsWrap Jason Page. Sam Yarnell, what was your reaction to... I was surprised they did it in season. I thought he was gone after the season. But it tells me that on some level, he had to have lost that locker room. For that, there had to be something that told management and ownership that he had lost that locker room for them to make this move in season. Because there's no other reason. Unless you're giving, Mike Kafka an opportunity to win the job, there's no reason why you make this move in season if you're the Giants, Sam.
Well, yeah, there is. It's because they have a rookie quarterback. This is the trend in the NFL, is if you're going to fire the head coach who's got a rookie quarterback, you do it in season. And I guess the thought process is so that head coach who you're inevitably going to fire doesn't get into the head of the rookie quarterback. It's going to be a very interesting way this plays out in New York because of the relationship that Jaxson Dart had with Brian Daboll and how evident that was from the get-go, right? I do think... I'm not going to say that Brian Daboll was a great coach, right? I think he got a little bit of a raw deal. I think that it's fair to say that he got a little bit of a raw deal. He was handed over a rebuilding franchise and a rebuilding team, took them to the playoffs, and immediately ownership was like, okay, well, I guess we're in win now mode. But Brian Daboll was like, no, wait. We just got really lucky. We're still very much a rebuilding team, but ownership never looked back from it. I mean, it's classic. I'm sorry, Jason. I know you're a New York sports fan. It's classic New York sports franchise, organizational malpractice on multiple levels. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that Brian Daboll made great in-game decisions, that he was some world-beating in-game coach. But I do think that he was given the short end of the stick in terms of how all of this situation played out in New York. And it did seem like the team was trending in the right direction. He had found a quarterback. And, outside of the freak Malik Neighbors injury this year, this offense looked like it could actually be something. And it beat the team that is going to win this division for the second year in a row, something that's only been done twice in the last 30 years. I think that Brian Daboll did a lot for the New York Giants, and I think a lot of it went underappreciated because of the franchise that the New York Giants are, quite frankly.
Lose to the Cowboys 40-37, winnable. Lose to the Broncos in Denver, the epic meltdown. Lose to the Saints, that was another game where they led and watched it slip away, a game they should have won. And then the game against the Bears. The reality is, the Giants, for whatever their record is, this thing could have been so much better, than it was this season. And I think the close losses, the blown fourth quarter leads, I think it just became a vote of no confidence from the organization ultimately when it came to Brian Daboll. And I am most anxious to see who they replace him with. Who is the right fit? You mentioned Mike McCarthy. I mean, if we're doing recycles, if we're going retreads, you just talked about Mike McCarthy. Give him a young quarterback. Let him mold him. And now you've got one in Jaxson Dart. There you go. There's your
him a
answer.
Young quarterback. Don't make him draft one. No. I don't know. And Mike McCarthy, look at what happened when Mike McCarthy went to a big media market who's got an owner who's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, but the Giants ownership group isn't that. But that's not the Giants ownership. This is.
I'm just telling you this. It's a lot more. Mike McCarthy walking in New York. It's a lot more similar to the Dallas situation he walked into than the Green Bay situation he walked into.
Who else is? I'm just wondering. And you start to try and project who's going to be out there. Who's going to be available potentially in this offseason, in this coaching cycle, that makes sense? Who's the next hot assistant? We always like to get into, who that guy is. Look, we've seen how Ben Johnson has paid dividends with the Bears. Say what you want about whatever you think of Caleb Williams and all this. The Bears are winning football games, which is something they haven't done in years. Who's going to be that guy? Who's the it guy? If Daboll Swinney leaves Clemson, do the Giants throw the bag at him?
Steve Sarkisian. I think it's going to be Sark.
Sark would be so good in New York.
That's the name that makes a lot of sense to me. A guy who you can tell by the rumors has dabbled, and NFL ownership groups have obviously dabbled in the Sark business. I don't think it would take a lot to get him away from the University of Texas. And I think if you're flashing, Jaxson Dart and Malik Neighbors, two guys who he coached, and throw Tyrone Tracy in there just because he's from the SEC too. Three guys who he coached against in college and saw how good they were. I think that Sark would take that job in New York.
It's an interesting one. I always thought, if you were going to go after a college guy, not that I think he's leaving Notre Dame anytime soon. I always thought Marcus Williams had good NFL vibes.
Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Williams. I always thought Marcus Freeman had good NFL vibes. If he was ever, if Notre Dame won a national championship, you know what I mean? Like, would he, if he had, your stock will never be higher. The New York Giants came calling. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
To me, with Marcus Freeman, it feels like the narrative has always been that he wants to be the Ohio State head coach, right? Went to Ohio State, won a national championship there. Feels like when Ryan Day's all said and done at Ohio State, Marcus Freeman is going to be the first one to take that job. But hey, maybe Ryan Day does Ryan Day go to the league?
Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator. That's another one that people have talked about, potentially being the next assistant to get an opportunity.
He's going to have a hard time getting a job after this season.
Well, I don't know how much of that is him versus how much of that is CJ Stroud's regression, too.
By the way, Joe Shane, because we asked about it last segment.
Yeah.
I think he's staying.
I just don't know. I know it's not a popular thing to say in sports talk, is I don't know. I don't know what they do with Shane. We're coming back. Welcome back. Unlike Jordan Love not calling audibles at the line when the Eagles were basically calling out plays, we will make an audible here. Beep, 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 beep. Breaking news from the association. Shams Charania of ESPN reporting, and by the time you ingest this show or digest this show, it may already be official that Nico Harrison expected to be let go. And I had planned to talk about this later in the show, but Shams breaking this made me decide to bump it up a little bit in the show. Nico Harrison out as general manager of the Dallas Mavericks reportedly this morning. And, Sam, I planned to talk about this because I was reading about this morning as I was preparing to do the show, and sort of the state of affairs in Dallas with the Mavericks and the increased involvement of ownership, increased involvement of the son-in-law of Marian Adelson getting more involved. The Mavericks governor basically had jumped in and said, all right, I'm going to get more hands-on within the organization. And that sort of spelled the writing on the wall here for Nico Harrison, despite the fact that he's got, years remaining on his contract. The team's 3-8. They're playing without Kyrie Irving. Anthony Davis is banged up again. Shocker! And Luka Doncic is doing great things with the Lakers, which obviously doesn't help. But the decision here by the Mavericks to go the direction of getting rid of Nico Harrison, I guess it's a direction. I don't know if it's the right one, but it's a direction for this organization, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah. This is crazy. This team is I mean, they're deep in it now. They are deep in it now. You go from oh my gosh. You trade away a top 3 player in the world for a guy who's always injured. And then you somehow luck box your way into the number 1 pick in a draft that seems to be guaranteed. And you can't figure out a way to play the one-of-one prospect at the right position. So he looks absolutely horrible 10 games into the season. And you're basically waiting on a 40-year-old. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but you're waiting on a 40-year-old Kyrie Irving to come back to help this lineup. Yeah, this franchise, they might be cooked.
I don't see, but here's the thing, Sam, but here's the thing. I don't get doing this before you see what this thing fully healthy looks like.
Agree.
It doesn't make sense to me. For Patrick Dumont, who's the governor of the Dallas Mavericks, it does not make sense to me. And again, this is what you get when you change ownership. Mark Cuban is no longer, calling the shots there, even though he still is a piece of the organization. It does not make sense to me. You without the chef having every ingredient possible to make the meal with, that you've decided to fire the chef and basically close down the restaurant at this point over the fact when you don't even know what this team is actually going to look like when fully healthy. It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. And I mean, now you have Patrick Dumont, and in this article I was reading today by Christian Clark, who I want to give credit to because he wrote a great piece for the Athletic. He's talking about Patrick Dumont getting more active, not just in being around the team, but in decisions about how long they hold out Anthony Davis. And the only thing I'll say, Sam, is see the New York Knicks. See James Dolan as your number 1 case example of why ownership has got to stay out of these things.
Yeah.
Go figure out how your organization's making money. Go get a new arena. Go get involved in all those things. Don't meddle in the day-to-day business of the team because you become the Knicks. And I've seen firsthand what that looks like. So to me, it's a bad sign for Jason Kidd. It's a bad sign for Mavericks fans when you've got Patrick Dumont starting to, be that extra chef in the kitchen, so to speak, meddling in the day-to-day operations of this team.
Yeah, you said the really important part to me there with the Jason Kidd thing. I'll say this on the James Dolan side of this for Patrick Dumont. The Dallas Stars looking for any investment? Mm-hmm. Maybe could someone get a little more involved with the Dallas Stars and so they could pay a little less attention? Seemed to work for James Dolan. It made the Knicks it put the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe Dumont needs to do the same with hockey in Texas. Here's the thing that the Jason Kidd thing is the most, and this is why I think this move and doing it 10 games into the season is beyond confusing for me. It reeks of you punting on the season on year one of Cooper Flag, on year one of rookie contract Cooper Flag, right? It feels like it feels like Jason Kidd is the next door that the Grim Reaper will walk down to in the meme, because Jason Kidd was the first hire Nico Harrison made. It was like, Nico Harrison, all right, Jason Kidd. I don't know. I'm like struggling to figure out what this franchise is going to do to remain relevant at this point, which is crazy considering they've got, one of the best bigs of the last 20 years, one of the best point guards of the last 20 years, and one of the best prospects of the last 20 years, all on the same team, and they're fighting for the brink of relevancy right now. This, Jason, it has all the markings of colossal disaster.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. It absolutely does.
I know I'm one for the dramatic, especially on this show, but like this is
what's
every
the direction?
Red button needs to be pushed right now.
What's the direction? That's what I want to know. I hope if they make a decision to fire Nico Harrison, Patrick Dumont sits up at a podium and answers questions as to why they've made this decision. I mean, look, in reality, we know why they've made this decision. Patrick Dumont was at a game on opening night against the Spurs where this 18-year-old in a Luka jersey was yelling, expletives at him. And then a couple weeks later, recently, he sat down with that kid who apologized. But Patrick Dumont also said, yeah, we're sorry too, which was the writing on the wall for Nico Harrison, the fact that he was apologizing on behalf of the organization for the fact that they traded away Luka Doncic. And that's what this boils down to, Sam. This all goes back to the decision to trade Luka, which this ownership group green-lighted. Whether you want to say Nico was right or wrong, he had to get the blessing of Patrick Dumont and ownership. And he did. And now they've got buyer's remorse. Or seller's remorse, as it would be. NFL next. All right, we're halfway home on this Tuesday edition of SportsWrap. Back to your originally scheduled programming of weekend leftovers in the NFL, because who doesn't love leftovers, Sam? I love leftovers. I got sushi leftovers in the fridge. Sushi leftovers? Anybody? I got some sashimi. It said it was used by last night. I'm thinking about taking a chance. I'm feeling a little risky today. Might go and hit that later on today. So if Sam's hosting the show tomorrow, you know why. Nothing like a little. May I introduce you to my friend? His name is Sal Manella. I'm a guy that likes to take chances from time to time.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing better than 3-day-old sushi that you're having in the middle of the desert. I mean, what better chance could you get?
Got it on Saturday. Today is Tuesday. The rest of it is all. I have 3 containers in there. They're all, only one of the 3 went bad last night. Bad, technically. I mean, what's a date?
Where's the nearest ocean?
It's like the medicine. It's like medicine, man. You get these medicine things and it says used by. You can take that stuff forever. Just saying, man. Let's talk about NFL weekend leftovers, Week 10 style, Sam. Two teams we don't spend nearly enough time on this show. The Rams and the Seahawks. And they might just be the best two teams, not just in the NFC, but the best two teams in all of football. And I know we're waiting for Sam Darnold to turn into a pumpkin and maybe some inevitable injury that derails the Rams season, or the fact that maybe they can't get by the Eagles would make some people leery. But these are the two teams playing the best football right now, period. Not just AFC, best football, period, in the league. Start with the Rams. Matthew Stafford has tapped into the fountain of youth to the point now that he's actually a co-favorite for MVP alongside, what's his name? Drake May, the guy you love so much. So, I mean, there is that. Let me see. Let me update that. Yep, both still plus 300. By the way, Jonathan Taylor now 5-1. Drake May and Matthew Stafford 3-1, and Jonathan Taylor's 5-1 after that standout performance on Sunday morning in Berlin. But to me, what Matthew Stafford is doing on certainly not just the back nine of his career, we're getting to like the beer holes, like the final few holes of his career. What Matthew Stafford is doing is nothing short of sensational. And then Sam Darnold in Seattle, Sam. And this Seattle team that isn't just winning games, they are boat racing teams right now. And we're all trying to, seeing when the bottom falls out on one of these two teams. Maybe it just doesn't. Maybe we've been overlooking them, and maybe these are the two best teams, Sam.
Relative to the concerns, you hit the nail on the head, man. It's with the Seahawks, it's okay, sure. Sam Darnold, we saw him do this last year, right? Regular season merchant, gets to the playoffs, turns into a pumpkin, right? And then on the Rams side, you couldn't have been more accurate, right? They can beat everybody except Nick Sirianni and the Eagles when it counts in the playoffs. They, I don't think, have won a game against Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, let alone in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think that is what makes both of these teams write off a bull in terms of getting to the Super Bowl all the way. But, let's not pretend that, especially coming off of that Monday night game, the Eagles didn't prove themselves trip-upable against, maybe not one of these teams, maybe one of the other teams in the NFC. I definitely think that these teams are slightly undersold for, a myriad of reasons. And you go down the list, right? Seattle, weather's always bad. I'm sorry, it's as simple as that. Both of these teams, they're on the West Coast. As much as you, the West Coast lover, may not want to believe it, the fact of the matter is it makes sports teams less relevant in the national eye. And on the Rams side, it's a Los Angeles sports team. The fan base is virtually non-existent. I'm sorry, it's not. So that to me, it's funny, all the reasons that we're not giving any of these teams credit for the football they're playing are non-football related, but I still think that at the end of the day, this Rams team is going to struggle with the Eagles should they meet up with them in a consequential game. And I'm sorry, I know that the Seahawks team is not the Vikings team of last year, but they remind me of it a lot, man. And it really just feels like we're going to get to the wild card round, and the Seahawks are going to have a 3-interception, 5-turnover game.
Well, they could be in line for a bye when you when you sort of examine it right now.
If they get the 1 seed, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, they could be. And I think of all the teams that could really use the home field advantage, it's Seattle. It's absolutely Seattle.
Yeah.
But to be fair, if I'm going to get on Denver for the way they win games and win ugly and all this stuff, if I'm going to get on the Colts because of the schedule that they played through the first half of the season, it's fair to examine what Seattle has done throughout the season. Lost to the Niners. They lost to the Niners in week 1. We throw week 1 out the window. Go look at what Detroit was in week 1 versus what they are now. And then the Buccaneers, they lost 38-35. Those are their 2 losses. They won at the Steelers. They pistol whipped the Saints. Beat Arizona twice now on the season. That, by the way, that first win against the Cardinals in week 4, they had every right to lose that game. Cardinals led for most of that game, if people recall. At the Jags, they win 20-12. beat the Texans 27-19, beat up on the Commanders 2 weeks ago. We obviously know what happened there. Right. And then the Cardinals this past week. We're going to learn a lot more about them coming up this weekend when they take on the Rams.
You're right.
You know, so we can pump the brakes a little bit. We got to go. We can pump the brakes a little bit. We got more to get to from the NFL. We're going to take stock in the division races, but more so the wild card, which is starting to look very interesting. We'll do that next. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. Big news from what the rest of the world calls football. Tell you about that coming up. One more NFL segment, Sam Yarnell, because as I was sitting here last night doing the SportsWrap short after the Packers-Eagles game, I started digging into these wild card races in the NFC and NFC, and wanted to take stock a little bit in the standings here when it comes to the AFC and NFC wild card races. And I mean, you know, for as much as we're trying to figure out separation of who the top teams are in the league, trying to figure out these wild cards right now is still very challenging, because in the AFC, Colts, Broncos, Patriots, Steelers for the time being are your division leaders. I don't think anybody believes the Steelers are going to remain the leader of that division. So if we replace them with Baltimore, which I think is fair to do, based on what we've seen of both teams, especially here over the last few weeks, if we do that, now you've got the Steelers as a wild card team potentially. You've got the Chargers at 7-3 sitting pretty to nab one of those wild card spots. I don't think anybody doubts that the Bills are going to be a wild card team. So now the conversation starts to become, who's that third wild card team? If you believe the Chargers, Bills, and Patriots are all making the playoffs, either as a division winner in the case of the Patriots, and then Chargers, Bills in the AFC as a wild card team, who's that final wild card team? What did I say wrong?
Wait, so Chargers
as a wild card team.
So who wins the AFC West?
The Broncos are 8-2.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
For now, I've got to.
I was about to get ahead of myself. Yeah. I wanted to make sure I didn't get ahead of myself.
But again,
we're good. I didn't.
Okay, but let's just assume the Colts, Broncos, Patriots, Steelers.
I'm with you.
Hold on.
I'm with you.
Well, hold on. Colts, Broncos, Patriots, Chargers, Bills. Winner of the AFC North, which will likely be the Ravens. That leaves us with one spot to go between the Steelers, the Jaguars, the Chiefs, the Texans, and if you really want to get adventurous, the Bengals. That's
People called me crazy. They called me crazy for saying that the Chiefs were on the outside looking in at the playoffs. And here we are in week 11. And if the season ended today, the Kansas City Chiefs would not be in the playoffs. It is an uphill battle, despite what everyone is telling you.
It's getting harder.
Despite what anyone comes on this show and says they're thinking in that building, I don't care. It is an uphill battle. And that, my friends, is something the Kansas City Chiefs are not used to and don't perform well when they have to face.
Sam.
I'm still taking the Chiefs as the 8 seed.
Sam. Has there ever, in the history of the NFL, going into week 11 of a season, has there ever been a team that is literally on the outside looking in at the playoffs right now if they started today and is the favorite to win the Super Bowl? They are the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl right now, Sam. I mean, that is... I don't think there's ever been anything like that before. And I know we don't have the ability to go and dip into this. I could probably ask ChatGPT and it would probably give me some interesting answer. But I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. That you've got a Chiefs team right now that is on the outside looking in at the playoffs, and they are the favorite to win the Super Bowl. And it's mind-blowing.
Again, it is so frustrating to me that the Kansas City Chiefs have shorter odds still to miss the playoffs than they do to win the Super Bowl as the favorites to win it. It is disgusting. It's a perfect example of something called risk aversion, but that's a different story for the middle of the summer, and we'll get into gambling lessons. It is just disgusting. This team,
Sam,
I am telling you right now, if they lose this game, not saying they're going to, if they do, if they lose this game against the Denver Broncos this weekend, their fate's not in their hands
Well,
anymore.
the Chargers and Broncos have made it such that the number of outs, to go to poker terminology here, the number of outs for the Chiefs is dwindling. That's the problem. It's a math problem for the Chiefs right now. And the onus is on them. They're going to have to win a lot of football games here down the stretch. Their margin for error is nearly, zilch. I mean, they have no real margin for error here, Sam. So that's the AFC. In the NFC, Eagles, Seahawks, Lions, Buccaneers are your 4 division leaders. Rams at 7-2, Bears at 6-3, your first and second wild cards. And then the Packers at 5-3 with the one tie, and that tie might wind up being enormously consequential when we get to the end of the season. The Niners, Panthers, Vikings, all still in the, even the Cowboys at 3-5-1, although the tie is worse for them in that situation. It hurts them. What do you think, Sam, when you look at the NFC real quick?
It feels like the playoffs have kind of already been decided in the NFC. You can draw the line where it is right now, and I think that's how the season's going to end.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing the Niners being able to keep their heads above water.
They're too injured.
With all
They're
the
too
injuries.
injured.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would tend to agree with you. Trying to see who might be able to. Yeah, I mean, unless you believe in the Panthers, they just lost to the Saints.
Ready for this, though?
Yeah.
In the final 20 seconds of the segment for you to marinate on?
Sure.
The Bengals, with that news about Joe Burrow yesterday, they've got a shot to win the AFC North.
Have they played the Ravens yet? Food for thought. Odds and ends next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. Don't forget, Wednesday on the show, Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Sure he'll have a reaction to the Nico Harrison news that we've been talking about here today, with his ouster being imminent. I've had a lot of fun watching the NBA early on this year. We were supposed to get to it, but because of Nico Harrison, the news breaking there, we didn't get to it. But Wemby, another huge performance last night, showing up late in a win against Chicago.
He needed it too.
He did. It was a huge effort from him. Back-to-back threes late in that game to beat the Bulls. And then the Heat winning. One of the most bizarre things. 0.4 of a second left. How you allow Andrew Wiggins to just fly in undefended for a game-winning alley-oop. Just, again. I know.
I was so beyond impressed with the play calling there. I thought I watched that play from like 4 different angles, and the fake screen that Andrew Wiggins sets is one of the best that you'll see. And when he rolls out of it and no one covers him, and no one stayed with him. It was perfect. It was great basketball to watch. So fun.
Nikola Jovic, not to be confused with Nikola Jokic, delivering the perfect pass there as well. So there was that. All right, couple of reminders real quick. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Go and subscribe to that. Also, Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. It is awesome. If you have not subscribed yet, we have the show there Monday through Friday, commercial free, all 45 minutes of it right there. Pro tip, it's there before it even airs around most of the country on television. So you'll want to check that out as well. Sports Wrap Shorts, also available on that YouTube channel, in addition to being available on our TikTok channel, Sports Wrap Jason Page, on our Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends Odds and ends, I feel a little bit vindicated on this one, Sam. Because yesterday on the show I said, the sports books have to get rid of these prop bets on pitches and individual pitches, first pitch of an inning, all these different things. They didn't get rid of it, but they did the next best thing you could do, which was to reduce the maximum amount you can bet on these things to $200. And I got news for you. Ain't no gang boss, ain't no mafia men, ain't no mobsters. They ain't making tons of money off $200 bets. You also can no longer put them into parlays, which was also part of the problem here. So, Sam, what was your reaction when we saw the news that Major League Baseball and the sports books got together and said this is the compromise?
I mean, obviously it was the right decision. It was something that I pitched on this show when we first started talking about this in an NBA player prop perspective, right? Like, there is no reason, right, that gambling, especially, it's just like anything else in America, right? It's just like alcohol or, you know, in 2025 cannabis sales, right? You can't make it the Wild West, which is quite frankly what gambling has been since the repeal of PAPSA for the last 7 years. But that's okay. It's because that's how the rich people wanted it. Fact of the matter is, now it's started to affect the sport. So now we've got to get a little bit more regulation and a little bit more oversight. And it's not a bad thing, right? Anybody who was betting more than $200 on individual pitches, I mean, call the freaking number. It's not that hard. It's 10 digits long. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah.
That might be 11 digits. Regardless, I think that this is something that will... It is the first step in a long walk towards, you know, actual progressive change on the gambling front. I am not one of these people who is here to say that gambling is bad and we should tax it at a higher rate like this crazy amount of Twitter has seemed to have turned towards in the last, 72 hours. But I do think that there is space for regulation, right? We don't need to be this unregulated madhouse in the world of gambling.
I agree. I wonder what offshore books are going to do. I wonder if they're still going to... exactly. Talk about the Wild West. What the offshore books might do. Nick Kurtz, your AL Rookie of the Year. Congratulations to him. A fantastic season with the A's. So he wins AL Rookie of the Year. He was just hitting bombs all season long for the A's, soon to be the Las Vegas A's. Look forward to seeing him out here in Vegas in a couple of years. Drake Baldwin, your winner for National League Rookie of the Year. 19 home runs, 68 RBIs, a 274 batting average for the Braves. Where you go? What awards they giving out on Tuesday, Sam?
I had no idea.
Manager
the
of the year,
schedule
maybe?
makes no sense. There's gonna be one. I'll tune in around 7. They'll give it out. I'll be done by 8:15. Obviously very happy for Drake Baldwin. It came down to him and Cade Horton at the end, and Cade Horton, it seems like, just missed too much time.
Cristiano Ronaldo, by the way, saying that this World Cup will be his last. We talk about the end of an era in the NBA and who's going to be the next star to pick up the mantle in the NBA. Ask the same question about soccer, where guys like Messi and Ronaldo are getting ready to wind down their careers, and who are going to be the guys that pick up the mantle for soccer internationally. Something certainly to discuss, just not on this show because I don't care about soccer. We got to go. Wraps it up for us. I mean, I'll pay attention to the World Cup. That counts for something. I'm sorry, soccer guy. You're not getting me. You're just not getting me. We got to go. Kurt Heelan on the show tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have something to talk about other than that. We'll see you all later. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got SportsWrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half as they're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.